Good morning, everyone. It is Wealth Wednesday, one of my favorite days of the week. And what is Wealth Wellness Wednesday? Well, we're going to give you a little bit in the very intro. But first off, I just want to say good morning, everyone. This is AKA Naughty Boss live with two
Sisters. Hey everyone, it's Janice, aka Wellness Diva 5.0. Before we introduce our amazing guest, I'm going to turn it over to Carol Sue to kind of give us the breakdown on Wealth Wellness Wednesday. And I
absolutely welcome Courtney, and she'll get a little tidbit in the airful about wellness. You know, we always talk about positive vibes, good vibes, but also really have that healthy relationship with money. And any entrepreneur really understands the value of that good.
Carol, so just so you know, we are losing your connection. Can you hear us?
It starts with kindness. It starts with generosity. Are you frozen or am I frozen?
You're frozen.
No, you guys froze up, so I wasn't sure.
Maybe we're all frozen. Courtney, can you hear us?
I can hear you okay, but Carol Sue's also cutting out for me.
Okay. All right. Well, we are having.
No, you guys are going in and out.
Okay, we are definitely having technical.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. It's just that you're frozen. And this is what happens with live podcasting. And you know what? We just kind of go with the flow here. We'll get everything. We're not sure what is happening or transpiring. I think there's a lot of woo-woo-ness in the Wi-Fi airwaves. Like, who knows? Carol Sue, are you still with us? I think we lost her. So let's just.
Yeah, I am, but you can't hear me.
Oh, okay.
Tech is great, isn't it?
You know what? Modern technology is great when it works, and when it doesn't work, it just kind of sucks. But in any event, I just want to briefly say that, Wealth Wellness Wednesday, like my sister explains it so perfectly. And okay, I think she's back because I can see her eyes blinking. Oops.
Oh, nope. Spoke too soon.
And you know what? The technical stuff is not perfect. And I just want to say that. And this is the beauty and reality of what we do. And it just goes to show you that we don't let those things stop us. In any event, we are so excited to welcome to today's podcast, Courtney McCarthy. Welcome to the TwoSistas bleeping, in and out technology stuff here. Welcome to today's podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Wonderful. And wow, we have so much to chat about. And you are the CEO and founder of a virtual community that is dedicated to helping women ditch the diet culture. Now, I just want to say that I do not like the word diet. Let's dive right on into that subject.
Sure, getting right into the meat. I love that. So, especially when we talk about diets and diet culture, this is that belief, the system of beliefs that there's a hierarchy of bodies. It's the system of beliefs that worships thinness, and that puts a lot of individual blame on each of us to achieve a specific body ideal through hard work and sacrifice and restriction. So for many of us, especially if you identify as a woman, we've spent decades of our lives trapped in the diet cycle and the shame spiral that comes with it, where, we try a diet. Maybe it works for a few days, a few weeks, a few months, if you're lucky, a few years, and then it falls apart. You're not able to stick to it. And that begins the shame and the self-blame and the feeling like a failure when for 95% of us, according to the research, diets don't work, and we regain the weight that you've lost within kind of 1 to 5 years. So the diet industry and the diet culture is set up again with that self-blame. So even though you might know of the science that diets don't work, even though in your own personal experience diets don't work, when they don't work, we don't blame the diet. We don't blame the diet and fitness industry. We blame ourselves. And that's why we keep going back for more. So my mission is to help women step out of that cycle, to learn that there's a different approach of how we can relate to our bodies, how we can relate to movement and fitness and health, and live with really big energy in our lives, so we don't have to waste as much time getting stuck in that spiral and worrying about our weight.
That is so true, because, when I went through my weight loss journey, let me just back up a moment as well. You had mentioned, and I really felt this, that, let's go on a diet, and, I have to lose weight. And we're so focused on, it's almost like we're punishing ourselves, and you might be successful, as you said, but then what happens when you go off the diet? That's what they never explain to you. And I think that's part of the misconception on going on a specific diet is, yes, you gain it back, and then I will add, and then some.
Yes.
Which is the problem, because if we are not dealing with the problem at hand on why we got a certain way, and if we are not treating ourselves with the dignity and respect that we deserve, of course, we're going to think of ourselves as a failure, and then starts that negative downward self-talk. And, I personally have been there, so I certainly relate to all that. A lot of times for instance, when I go into a bookstore, I always like looking at the diet book section. And I will pick up random diet books and, flip through it. And okay, it's great. They're, teaching you that you can lose weight on my diet, but they're not telling you how to sustain that lifestyle. And what does that lifestyle mean to me would be different for you.
Yeah. And I think that diet culture really ignores a large part about our bodies, which is genetics, meaning that if you and I eat the exact same thing, if we follow the exact same diet, if we move the exact same way, our bodies are still going to look different. And for many of us, it may be impossible without, as you said, severely punishing and restricting our bodies in order to achieve a certain body type. So for example, someone like myself, I was able to achieve, what could be considered the perfect physique. I had a flat stomach. I was like under 130 pounds, and it required an extreme amount of restriction. Like family gatherings used to be planned around me, because I would get an email basically being like, so what can you eat right now? Because the list of things that I couldn't eat was so long. And I actually didn't end up feeling happier. I didn't end up feeling, stress-free. Of course, I experienced thin privilege, which is tons of people complimenting me, wondering what I'd done. I felt morally superior because I'd figured it out, right? I'd figured out how to lose the weight. But it meant that I spent whatever time and energy I spent trying to lose the weight, I now was spending obsessing about keeping the weight off. And it didn't actually make me feel better, because my self-worth was still incredibly tied to what I looked like. So even when the diets do work, they're not giving us the results that we want. And as you said, it's this idea of, can we fundamentally change our relationship with food, change our relationship with our bodies, change our relationship with fitness, and take the fat phobia out of health, to accept that our bodies are going to look a certain way. They're going to feel best at a certain weight. That's going to look different for each of us. And can we find that freedom where there's not the shame and...
Oh, she froze up. Courtney, can you hear me? Okay, we are having technical issues.
I can. Am I frozen on your end?
You did froze up momentarily.
Okay. Am I back now?
Yes, you are back now.
Okay. I did just get a message saying that the internet became unstable, but hopefully we're clear.
Yeah, and I was just checking mine. Everything looks perfect on my end, but back to the conversation at hand though. And I think when, especially for women, let's face it, dieting is a very sensitive issue. And when we step on that scale, we are so focused on that number.
Yep.
For instance, let's use 130 pounds. 130 pounds, that's an awesome number to see on the scale. But if it goes up like 2 pounds, you might think, oh my God, I gained 2 pounds. But what I think women, specifically some women, I should say, I'm not categorizing what I'm going to say as that this happens to all women, but many women, when they see that increase on the scale, they automatically have this negative connotation about themselves, like, I am bad, I gained 2 pounds, when they don't realize that quite possibly they might have gained 2 pounds of muscle. Now, we all know 1 pound of muscle and 1 pound of fat weigh the same. However, they look differently on everybody. Now, I had my my wellness journey of losing over 100 pounds in my early 40s. So, and I pretty much have kept all of it off. I lost over 100 pounds. And in my, 16, 17 years since I went on a different wellness quest for myself, there's been about 6 times that I can recall where when I've stepped on the scale, I've lost body fat and gained muscle fat at the same time. So of course that was like, oh my God, those 6 times, I vividly remember those 6 times. That, I think the focus is too much on the number, too much.
Yeah, definitely. Because, when we think about numbers, whether it's clothing sizes or the numbers on the scale, though they are all really arbitrary milestones. Like that idea that 130 is an awesome number. Why? Like, why has that become an awesome number? And so many of us don't actually ask that question. We're following these milestones that are set out for us by external society, by other people. And we don't actually really question if there's something we actually want for ourselves. So that's a really important step of recognizing that you have the ability to define health and wellness based on what works for your body. Because I can say at 130 pounds or less, it did not feel good in my body. It might have looked good from a diet culture perspective, but it did not feel good. And even when we're talking about this fear of weight loss, right? Like even this comparison of 1 pound of fat is the same as 1 pound of muscle, which is true. And yes, it is true that they look different, but why is it that we have this, such ingrained belief that fat equals bad, that fat is something that, right, we should all be trying to run away from and lose as much as possible. And that's something that we're also working on challenging because, it's only been in the last 10 to 15 years that health has become synonymous with thinness and weight loss versus someone like myself. I'm now gained most of the weight back, if not more, as you said, than when I was at my smallest. But the reality is my relationship with my body has never been better. I am more confident now. I've done the work to really dismantle those diet culture beliefs about what my body should and should look like. And I'm able to show up much more authentically in my life. The stress around, am I always eating the right thing? Am I always moving? Am I, what's the number? I haven't stepped on a scale in over 5 years. And all of that has led to me feeling better about my body. And it hasn't led to a deterioration in my health. The pandemic has, but not because of weight gain or things like that I've been able to separate those two ideas and accept my body for how it is and how I can be.
Right. And that is very important and so true. But what I will add to that, which may be a little slightly adverse, is if our weight or if the body fat that we are carrying is a detriment to our health, let's face it, that's not good. That's not good for your heart. That's not good for your body systems. And it's finding that balance. I think to a certain degree, I don't agree with body shaming on any shape or form. That's just not what I am trying to get at. But what I am trying to say, I guess, in a roundabout way, is different things happening in the world today that were some cultures are glorifying obesity. And I have to take a step back and look at that objectively. And I always try to do that. And I don't understand, and this I think would be a great addition to the conversation. I don't understand why there is glorification. If somebody is suffering because they are overweight, let's have that conversation. Like, let's work together as a society and maybe have things in place that we can talk about and support one another. It's not, for me, it's not about being 130. It's about how good, and you said it so well, how good you feel in your body and you having a better relationship. That is so important. But how do you feel about what I just said in relationship to society?
Yeah, it's a great point. And I think it's something that is only natural that comes up in this conversation, as I said, because, there is a very strong link to health equals being of a certain size. And I think we have to be aware of how fat phobia comes into this because, the concerns that you mentioned about, obesity being tied to certain health, negative health impacts is true in some of the research. However, it's also just as true that there are many other health variables that have an equal, if not greater impact on disease prevention than weight loss. So for example, pleasure, reducing stress, all of those have really, really positive health impacts. And we kind of make the assumption about bodies that, being obese or being of a larger size equals, we kind of assume that most people are not healthy or that they don't feel good in their bodies. We don't make the same assumption on the other side, which is why it's fat phobia, because you don't necessarily look at somebody who's smaller. We have the opposite assumption. We look at somebody who's smaller and we assume, which is what everyone did for me when I lost weight, we assume that they are healthy. It's only on the obese side that we tend to make that assumption that they've lost a lot of their health versus, I've had so many people in my community tell me that, when you ask the question, what are some assumptions that people made about you when you experience weight loss? A lot of times it was they were really ill, that they lost a lot of weight because of illness or because they were struggling with disordered eating or an eating disorder. Or they had experienced a massive loss in their life, which ended up messing with their appetite. So the weight loss wasn't actually a positive health outcome. It was a negative health outcome. So we have to be aware of that in the conversation about health, that just because somebody is gaining weight doesn't mean that they're seeing a reduction in their health. Just because somebody is losing weight doesn't mean that they're seeing an improvement in their health. So I don't think that it's true that there's this like glorification of obesity, at least in the culture that we exist in. I think it's much more still that we're glorifying thinness at any cost to ourselves. And we have to have that balance when we're having these conversations.
Ooh, and there we go again with the tech issues. Hey, Courtney, can you hear me?
Am I back?
Yeah, you are back.
Okay, so I'll start from the point just when you came in and told me you'd lost me. So we have to have this balance and recognize that we need to put the client and the individual at the center. So this is where we're talking about person-led health outcomes and health strategies, where the individual, you are the expert in your own body, and you are the one that gets to make the decisions and lead the way when it comes to, as we talked about, what feels best. And if that means being in a larger body feels best for you and allows you to exist in the way that you want to exist, then that should equally be as celebrated.
Right. And I agree with that. But I will also say that I disagree to a certain point. There is glorification. I've seen it all over the place. And again, it's not about, that's not me saying that I am shaming somebody, because I certainly am not. We do need to have these really heartfelt and maybe disagreeable type of discussions from different points of view, because I think that's important for people to understand how I feel in my body, or what my perception is of what I see. And I've seen a lot of it has me concerned. And that's what I will, obviously say about the glorification part of it. What I see happening too, and when I was working at a weight loss center, and I'm glad I'm not working there anymore. But what I remember having this very distinct conversation, and we were talking about 1 pound of fat and 1 pound of muscle. And the patient was arguing that fact with me and saying that I'm wrong. And I said, okay, I'm going to go with this conversation. Prove to me that I'm wrong. Like, look it up on your phone right now. 1 pound is 1 pound. You can't change it. Like, 1 pound of muscle may look like this, and I'm showing my fist, versus maybe 1 pound of fat. So don't focus so much on the number, focus on how you feel. Like it, I think too, when we go on a weight loss journey, it's the perception that we maybe want to have of ourselves. And I experienced, you were mentioning about the weight loss. When I went through my weight loss journey, I obviously was very heavy. Excuse me. And when I lost the weight, the reaction to people seeing me as a thin person was not what I expected. And to clarify, I didn't know what I was going to expect. I figured, well, maybe people won't recognize me, but it was the other way around. Oh my God, are you sick? You look too thin. Like, I had the negative aspect. I felt good at where I was. And then I remember thinking, well, okay, I looked at myself in the mirror and I remember thinking, you know what? Job well done. I feel really good where I am right now. And the bottom line is, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. It doesn't matter what society thinks. It's about having these heartfelt conversations. If someone doesn't, if someone does not feel well, let's have that heartfelt conversation, a genuine conversation. And we don't have to agree, but let's have a conversation where we can share our experiences, and let's not get trapped in the diet cultures, kind of what roundabout way of what I'm trying to say. Let's not get trapped into that. What would you say when you started your business? And by the way, I don't know how to pronounce it, so I will probably butcher it. But I see that word, and I think that there is such meaning in depth in why you named it that.
Yeah, so it's Loyobo Fit, and Loyobo stands for Love Your Body, which really was the entire reason as to why I wanted to start my own business.
And I think we lost you, Courtney.
Industry.
There you are. Okay, you're
Am I
back.
back? Seems
Yeah.
to reset after a moment. There I am. All right. So after working for many years in the health and fitness industry as a fitness instructor, and after experiencing my own weight loss journey, I recognized that the traditional methods and the traditional model of health and wellness,
I think we lost her.
many women felt, am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
All right. So when I was working at gyms, many women felt intimidated. They felt that they weren't welcome at the gym, or that the gym environment wasn't designed for people like them in mind, especially older women or women of different sizes. So rather than just my to have difficult conversations, to allow themselves to get uncomfortable and embrace new challenges, and to explore their relationship with their body. And also something that didn't just include fitness, because I always say you can't work out your way to loving your body. That's not the only part that has to be involved. We have to talk about self-talk. We have to talk about mindset. Obviously, food for a lot of people comes into play. So we talk about nutrition as well. So that's what the community is about. It's about a safe space where you can move your body and understand what joyful movement is. And again, learn a different way of relating to fitness and incorporating that into your life. But it's also having those other pillars of support, like coaching, community, having strong relationships with people, having a support work.
Don't you just love Wi-Fi? And what's going on with your Wi-Fi? I think it's your Wi-Fi fault today.
I'm not sure today. Normally I don't have these kind of issues. So it must just be, as you said, something in the woo-woo.
Something in the woo-woo.
Yeah.
And you brought up some really great points. And, fitness as we know it as well, people think, oh my God, I got to spend, hours in the gym. Now, I personally, and I've always shared this, I'm a gym rat. I love, I haven't been back to my kickboxing studio. I'm going to join them again, hopefully soon. But I like that type of atmosphere, but you don't have to go to a gym. And I would just want to be very clear about that. You can, even in a small space, and don't call it exercise. For me, I like you say, oh, I'm going to exercise. Like that does not sound appealing to me whatsoever to this day. So I call it, got to get my movement in. To me, that's more exciting because I think, okay, am I going to go on a power walk today? Am I going to kick my amazing kickboxing bag, which is a commercial grade bag, that same one that's in the studio? Am I going to go rowing today? Or, you know what, I'm just going to take a walk outside and, I have some hand weights, or if I don't have hand weights, I remember, walking around my neighborhood with cans of soups. Now I made it look like a dork. I'm sure I did, but you know what? Make it work. And even, I just want to add, if you are someone who struggles with knee issues, back issues, or maybe you have an injury, and obviously get your doctor's clearance, you can be sitting in your chair exercising or getting in your movement. Like, make it complement to your lifestyle. Like, don't put restrictions on what you can do or can't do. Think of it as, okay, well, I have a knee issue, but you know what? I'm going to sit in my chair today and I'm going to do some leg raises, make it adventurous. And for me, that's what clicked for me. And I always, when I would be coaching, my health client, my wellness clients, I would say, don't restrict yourself. Like, one person mentioned the hula hoop, and I said, have you looked on YouTube for, like different videos? Like, you don't have to like go somewhere. Oh, I'm sure they don't have stuff on that. And of course I looked it up and I'm like, there's a whole bunch, and I showed it to her. There's a whole bunch of videos on YouTube. YouTube is a great resource. Just saying, you can find anything on YouTube.
Yeah. And especially that's why, one of the things that we do when it comes to movement is really create that supportive environment where, it can be difficult to figure out what you can do if if you do feel like you have a lot of limitations, or again, that movement hasn't always been a positive experience for you, it can be really hard to take those steps on your own. So that's what we're about, is providing that level of support where we do, empower you to show you what you can do and to help you make those decisions and move through that journey, because you'll get way better results so much faster when you are able to do it with support.
Yeah, that is so true. And I have another question, and this has come up a lot. If you, and I obviously know the answer for me and how I would respond, but if a client comes to you and says, maybe they're keeping a diet journal because, they want to see what they're eating, but more importantly, why they're eating. Do you believe that there's any type of bad foods? And what I mean by that is, if someone is eating something and they are getting sick shortly afterward, that should be a sign, not necessarily that it's a bad food, but it may not be good for you. How do you talk to your clients about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we definitely use a mindful approach, which means we take the morality out of food. So we don't use words like good and bad, mostly because it does create kind of a hierarchy again, and it's so subjective and individual. So the way that mindful eating works is that it's a really client-led. So it's about understanding our relationship with food. It's about giving ourselves unconditional permission to eat, which removes, again, the shame and the tabooness that often comes along with binge eating or disordered eating. So paired with that is, the mindful eating approach uses gentle nutrition. So that's where we focus more on what foods that we can add in rather than what foods that we can take away. Now, of course, there may be foods that, as somebody who lives with IBS, there are definitely foods that don't feel as good in my body and that my body does not respond well to. But it's that idea of, rather than saying it's a bad food, I can't eat it, which from a psychological perspective often kicks in that rebellion, that, again, that tabooness of, if I tell myself I can't eat Oreos, then all I want is Oreos and it's going to make it more appealing. So rather than telling myself I can't eat it, it's about saying I'm choosing not to. I can eat it if I want, but I'm choosing not to, because it's an act of love for my body to say I don't have to eat that food if it doesn't make me feel good. So that's a little kind of Cole's Note synopsis of how we want people to change the way that they think about foods, because restriction, we know, has such negative psychological impacts that we want to change it to a much more positive association.
Right. But along with that, I guess what I'm trying to get at too is, if you're specifically eating something, you had mentioned that you have IBS, and I have a non-celiac gluten sensitivity, and they still want to take out my gallbladder. And I'm like, no, I'll control it through diet. But I do have episodes where, just out of the blue, so for instance, I love cheese. So for the last, couple of weeks, I've cut out cheese and I feel 100% better. Now, is that a bad food for me? I wouldn't say that it's a bad food, but it's not something that I should be having on a regular basis, because putting my body through that stress is stressful enough. So I guess I just wanted to add that. This has been such an amazing conversation, even with all the tech issues. This is why we love what we do. And I feel so bad that, Carol Sue got cut off there. And, but, she explained Wealth Wellness Wednesday so well. But Courtney, how can our viewers and listeners connect with you further?
Yeah, so we're big on Instagram. If you want to find us at LoyoboFit, so LOYOBOFIT. You can also head to, as a special gift for your listeners in your community, if you head to loyobofit.com, so LOYOBOFIT.com/love-your-size. I have a free guide that really helps you to take the first steps. So it's all about embracing the body that you have now and feeling good in the body that you have now, rather than planning to love and feel good in your body later. So how to start on that path of body acceptance. So you can download that for free if you go to loyobofit.com/love-your-size. And of course, if you have any questions or want to continue this conversation further, I would absolutely love to hear from you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for offering that. And, we should love our size and love ourselves no matter how we are, because we are genuinely unique and flipping awesome, I might add.
Yeah, celebrate that body.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being with us today and, providing us with such an amazing conversation. I love the fact that we were able to engage in such a way that was meaningful and yet informational at the same time, even though maybe there were a few little things that we didn't necessarily agree on, but that's the beauty of what we do. Thank you so much, Courtney. So appreciated your time today.
Thanks for having me. And please pass thank you on to Carol Sue as well.
I sure will. Everyone, that this is Wealth Wellness Wednesday. It's that day to pay it forward and create that ripple effect, and know that how you create a ripple effect will continue to spread in the world. Let's get that good woo-woo going. And Wi-Fi gods, you better be with us today because we both have busy days. Anyways, my name is Janice, aka Wellness Diva 5.0, and Carol Sue, aka Naughty Boss, who was with us at the beginning of it and the podcast and had some tech issues. It has been an amazing Wealth Wellness Wednesday so far. Go out and pay it forward. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye for now.
Thanks. Bye.